What's up, guys? Mike Lewis here, and welcome to the Mike Lewis podcast. If you guys want to keep up with me on social media, you can follow me on Instagram at Mike Lewis Official, and you can follow me on Twitter at MikeLew52. It's where most of my updates come. If you're enjoying my content, give me a like and a subscribe. And without further ado, let's just dive right into this episode. Okay, everybody, and welcome back to another episode. And please help me welcome my guest today. You might recognize her from Real World Bad Blood, Miss Anika. Welcome to the show. How are you doing?
I'm doing good, and I'm excited to be here and talk about my crazy experience on reality TV. So thanks for having me.
This is actually take two for us, for those that don't know watching this. We started the initial recording, then we just froze up. Not too long, it was like 30 seconds, but, you know, second time's the charm. But it's nice meeting you. How have you been holding up during this whole past year or so with the crazy adjustments? How's it been?
Oh my God, I feel like, you know, I think that we've all been kind of going through something weird. You know, the pandemic hit everybody in the world, clearly. For me personally, I had a really interesting story. I was living in Thailand at the time, and right before the pandemic hit, really bad, me and my boyfriend were traveling to Vietnam just for a quick visa run. And that visa run, which was supposed to be only 3 or 4 weeks, ended up being 8 months because we couldn't get out of Vietnam. And we were waiting to get back into Thailand. And then it was just really crazy. Imagine being caught abroad, you know, during a pandemic. You don't know what's going on, and, you know, you don't speak the native language. And it just was a very weird experience. We definitely, that was our moment to get to know each other for real. It was this is going to make us or break us. And then we eventually got back to the U.S. and we're chilling here in New York until we can head back to Thailand in a few months. So yeah, it's been a really weird year and a half, but I'm hoping that things are starting to get back to normal somewhat.
Wow, back in Thailand, that bring back any memories for you?
It definitely brings back memories. And, you know, I was saying this earlier, but I think that Thailand is probably my spirit location, and I didn't even know it. And maybe it was the challenge that kind of sparked that initial love for Thai culture. Who knows? But I think it's just very random how I ended up kind of doing the show there. And then 2 years later, I think it was 2.5 years later, I ended up living there for 2 years, and now I love it. So very weird, but that just shows you that life comes full circle.
And you met your boyfriend there, you said, right?
Yeah, I did. I actually was, after I did the challenge, I was still living in New York at the time. I moved back to New York. And then I moved to LA for a year and a half. And then I was just kind of done the LA scene. I was just I need a change. I need something a little bit more real. I need to find myself. Maybe I was going through a quarter life crisis. Who knows? And I was you know what do people do when they're feeling like this? And I literally just went on Google one day and I said, what do you do when you're having a quarter life crisis? And then everything just kept on saying, travel the world. And I was you know what? Fuck it. I'm going to go travel. And I was where can I go take really pretty pictures? And Bali kept on coming up. So then I was I'm going to go to Bali. And I went there. I met really cool people there from Ireland. And they're the ones who told me about this place called Chiang Mai, Thailand. And so I went to Thailand, and then that's where I met my boyfriend and a whole bunch of great other friends there from all over the world, Australia and the UK and everything like that. And I've been there ever since for 2 years. And then, of course, you know, then the pandemic happened. So.
Wow, that's incredible. Yeah, there's the saying, it's I don't know if it's travel either heals people or travel brings people together. One of those things, but it's definitely true.
It's definitely all of the above. I think travel can heal you. I think travel can almost push you to see what type of person you are in different situations. I think travel can, you know, make you discover things about yourself. And, you know, travel can also, I don't want to say break you, but I think it definitely pushes you to the limit to kind of figure shit out. So, I mean, it's the challenge, but you're living it in different ways. So. Well,
depending on how bad or good the trip goes, I guess it could break you.
You don't want it to be the challenge the whole time, because then that's not, I don't think that's the best type of travel experience. But yeah, you definitely go through some crazy shit abroad for sure.
Yeah, and for those that don't know what I'm alluding to when we say Thailand, I did a little bit of a disservice in the intro. You also might recognize her from Invasion of the Champions, where she did the challenge as well. Forgot to mention that. And we're going to get into this experience later on, but I want to ask what you're up to now because I checked. You're a life coach now. You're doing a lot, it seems. What is it exactly that you're up to these days?
Yeah, so I mean, I'm like full entrepreneurial mode. Like, some people call it life coach. Like, my coaching is more geared toward like dating and relationships. I'm also a consultant at a matchmaking company, so I help matchmake people, whether they're in LA or New York City. I consult for marketing companies, and then I create my own content. And I'm in the process of writing a book about dating and relationships. So that's kind of everything I have on my plate right now. And yeah, I'm just like trying to make a name for myself. I kind of feel like I went off the grid for a little bit, but I think that happens to everyone realistically because they need time to kind of like figure shit out. And now I'm like kind of gearing up to kind of like start putting stuff out there again. So that's what I've been up to.
Wow, and it's Ask Anika, right? Is the
Yep.
Okay, cool. I could plug that as well if you'd like in the description after this is up. So how more complex is it with like the matchmaking? Is it along the lines of like Tinder, or is it a lot more that goes into it?
You know what? It's actually really funny. It's like my favorite conversation starter when I go out. Because, people, when you go out, they're like, oh, what's your name? And then they always ask, like, where do you live? And then they say, like, what do you do for work? And I'm like, I'm a matchmaker. And they're like, what? And they think, like, Hitch. And that's kind of a little bit of, like, what it is. You have clients. They tell you what they are looking for, what they like. There's so many like shows like 90 Day Fiance or Married at First Sight, and if you see what the matchmakers there do, that's what we do. It's kind of the same thing, and we basically go out and we try to find people that we feel like would fit with the clients that we have, and it's a very emotionally draining job, I would say, but also very rewarding because we've had marriages, we've had people who found like boyfriends and girlfriends and partners and lovers. So it's definitely Tinder is a little bit more. I mean, I've seen Tinder change, but from what I remember back in the day when I was on Tinder was it's for hookups, and this is more for like looking for somebody to like start something on the more serious level with.
Right. Yeah, that's like big nowadays. Like I've seen like a lot of like matchmaking shows. As crazy as it is to hear, they actually started MTV started pulling people from Tinder onto some of their shows. Like not too long after your Real World season, I'm pretty sure. Like I know some people's casting stories, like legit like producers would like find them like through Tinder to get them onto the show. Like it was kind of crazy.
I mean, honestly, I'm not surprised. I feel like casting directors, they're very scrappy and like they find like I mean, I've been reached out to for like just so many interesting things, like matchmaking shows, like shows that have to do with travel, like just so many different random opportunities, things that probably never even gotten to the point where they've been, backed or, financed or whatever. But the way that I always ask, how did you find me? How did you find me? And I'm always thinking, oh, maybe it's like through Real World or like through like my social media, but it's like, oh, through LinkedIn or, oh, like, through like just like hashtags. And it's just like, they are scrappy people. So they know what they're doing for sure.
Yeah, no, I do want to get into kind of like your journey now. What were you up to prior to Real World?
Before Real World, I was living in New York. I was like 24 years old, which is I'm about to be 30 at the end of the year. Oh my God. What was I doing? I was really into like entertainment, more like the acting scene. I was actually, I think I was just beginning to start my brand. It was more like advice kind of giving and stuff like that. Like I've always wanted to do that like life coaching type of vibe. But it was like me trying to be an entrepreneur, trying to figure out what that route would look like. But I just wanted to be on TV and I just wanted to like be in front of the camera. So it was just like trying to figure out what route I was going to take and what opportunities could get me to be, I guess, known and seen in the quickest way possible. And then I just remember one day I like was like rolling up and then I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna have like a really crazy idea. I'm gonna see if there's any reality shows casting. I just went on MTV.com. It said that they were casting Real World, and I just like literally just like smoked and just like filled it out like all in one shot, and then like it just kind of like went like wildfire like after that.
Did they have like you show up for like open casting calls too, like interviews and stuff like that, or?
Yeah, I can still remember that. I remember I applied like one day, and then it was like 2 days later, I got an email, and it said, we would love to have you come to like the, I forgot the name of the studios. It was a really big studios in New York City, and they said bring a friend or two, and so I brought like two of my best friends at the time, and then when I showed up, I thought it was just gonna be like maybe me and like maybe a less than 100 people because it was supposed to be selective, but it was like thousands and thousands of people at this casting call. It almost looked like it was an open casting call, so I was like, oh my god, there's no way I'm gonna get this. And so I just remember that they split up everybody in groups of like 10, and then they sat us around a table, and they said, tell us your first name and your last name and something interesting about you. And I just remember like, okay, well, this is my shot to like stand out because they're only asking you three fucking questions. And then I just remember when she got to me, I just looked the casting director straight in the eye. I told her my first and my last name. And then when she said something interesting, because I think people were saying things like, I'm left-handed, I'm right-handed. I'm like, shit, I'm left-handed. I think I said something like, I'm an entrepreneur. I'm starting my own brand. I'm going to be fucking famous. Like, follow me. Take your phones out now. And I made everybody at the table that I was with take out their phones and, like, follow me on social media. And I was, like, extremely demanding about it. And I think she just, like, loved that. And she asked me to stay after. And then she pulled me aside and she was like, we love you. Like, we want to, like, streamline you through the process. And like from that point it was just kind of like videos, interviews with my family, my ex-boyfriend at the time, and yeah, that's kind of how it went.
So you'd say that like they liked your confidence, right? Because speaking of people, it always seems like they choose the ones that are really confident in themselves, or they choose the ones that maybe aren't taking the process too seriously or not taking themselves too seriously. So you would say yours was probably teetering on the line of like, all right, you were so confident, and that's why like they wanted you.
Yeah, I think it was a combination of the two. Like my confidence was kind of like, listen, I'm gonna do whatever I need to do to like, get on the show or just show that like if you don't choose me, you made a fucking mistake. And I think it was kind of like in a way, a little bit of that was kind of like if you didn't choose me, that's not my fault. That's your fault. You made that mistake. So I think it's a combination of confidence and like you can take me or leave me because this is who I am. So I think it's a combination of both, knowing that like you are the shit and like, that's good TV, and that's kind of what they look for. And that's, I think that everybody, I would probably would say, even the more quiet people or the more nonchalant people, everyone has like that type of vibe to them somewhere.
Yeah, and the people trying out when you're asking them to follow you are probably like, we're screwed. It's over. They're probably begrudgingly following you.
They definitely looked at me very, very crazy. They were like, is this girl serious right now? And I was like, yeah, no, I'm serious. Take your phones out. And they were like, oh, shit. Okay. Like, she seems like a lot, like, very intense. And I was like, hey, you got to do what you got to do.
Did you ever, like, go through any one of those, like, unfollowed apps and, like, see which one of them's, like, unfollowed you as soon as the thing was over? Or did that like, not really cross your mind?
That didn't even cross my mind, to be honest with you, because honestly, before I left that casting that day, she told me she wanted to like move forward with me on the process. So I was just kind of like, I'm not even thinking about these people anymore. Thank you guys for being my audience to like allow me to like show my personality. And now I'm on a whole nother level now. Now I'm like, I'm on the next step. And that's kind of like how I thought about it. But I definitely have to say, like, there's also like a little bit of a spunkiness that comes with being in your earlier 20s than being like 29, 30 years old. That's why you also see a lot of these people on these reality shows, like they're not choosing like mid 30-year-old people. Nothing's wrong with them. Like, shoot, I'm about to be 30, but there's definitely a little bit more of like a carefree, spunkier vibe that comes with like just being younger for sure.
But I'm interested now because obviously they brought in people's quote unquote bad bloods onto the cast. Like, what was that process like for your bad blood? Like, was your ex-boyfriend trying out himself, or did they kind of latch him on like once they were trying to talk to more people like related to you?
Yeah, so I'm not gonna lie, like I was actually very irritated about there's a lot of things that I probably never even talked about, but I'm like, it's fucking 4 years now, like this perfect time. But that was one of the things that not only me, but a lot of the other original cast members were annoyed about was the whole process of bringing the bad blood in. Like, we felt like it should have been almost like you come for 2 weeks, you fuck shit up, and then you leave. And then you kind of like leave us with this mess to fix. But it kind of was like I think we only got 2 weeks to be around each other, the original cast. And then they came in and then they stayed until, the end. And I think it was way too many cast members. There was not enough room. The drama was like mediocre, in my opinion. There was so much better things that happened that was never shown. And I just feel like also just the times we were in, the type of things they thought people wanted to see. I think that I think they did a horrible job with like showing what our season was. And I think that in the way of the bad blood, like, it was more of a situation of me and my ex were no longer together, but we had a friendly relationship. When you do go through the process, they ask to speak to your family, your friends. And, they think they ask for like 3 female friends, or 3 best friends, and then like any exes. And I gave like 3 of my exes numbers. He, of course, was the one who I just broke up with like not too long ago. We were still in a positive friendship. So they were like, oh, perfect person to bring on. And then I think he just happened to fit into what theme they were going for. So maybe if I had an issue with my brother, maybe they would have brought in my brother, like how Katrina had, Anna being brought on. So I think it's kind of like they just wanted to see where they can fit people into the show. So Will, for me, was like the perfect fit.
Okay, so he didn't like actively like audition then, right?
No, they just had an interview with him, and then I think they had like 2 more, and then I thought it was a little weird, but then I was like, it's MTV. They're always trying to they always go for like, the drama or, kind of like, why do we break up? Or like, they focus on relationships a lot. So I just assumed like maybe they're just trying to get more information out of him about me. I don't know. But I didn't know that he was going to be on the show probably until I got on the show, probably like after the first week. And I knew there was a twist because that was the time where like Real World every season from like 2 seasons prior was doing some type of twist, and we all kept on talking about it. And then I think a few of them kind of had an idea of what was going on or what our season was going to be about, and that's when I was like, okay, Will's definitely he's the only one they talk to more than once, so he's definitely going to be on the show.
Yeah, and I think like I think it was Peter and Mike. I think Peter was supposed to be originally one of the 7 roommates with you guys originally, but I think like they had Mike be the original one because Peter and Robbie looked too much like each other. That's what Jennifer I saw somewhere said, but
yeah, I heard that too. I don't know the extent of that, but I did hear the same thing. But I mean, I think that it worked out pretty well. I mean, I'm happy that Mike was one of the original ones. I love Mike. He's great. He's married with a baby now, so he's, daddy life. But yeah.
Yeah, and I wanted to piggyback off of kind of what you said with, kind of a little bit of the distaste with them kind of bringing people in. It was like, I felt bad for you guys because it wasn't like you guys were like transcending anything either, because they already had just like done pretty much the same format 2 out of the last 3 seasons before you guys. So it wasn't like you guys were transcending anything by having like people come in. And then on top of that, the whole premise of the show is kind of like character development and like trying to like follow these people's stories, but it was hard to get invested into like the cast members because there were so many moving parts. You had like, you guys broke the record, I think, for most cast members on a show. It was like 14 of you guys. So it was like, how are you supposed to get invested into like what's happening here when there's just so many moving parts? And it was just like a mess, I'll be honest. But
yeah, I mean, honestly, I think that we all feel that way. I think that there was a lot going on in terms of like, we were in like the turning part of culture in terms of like how MTV wanted to present itself, the ideas that they had or that they were running out with. And then also at the same time, I mean, we were the last season that was actually shown on TV. I think they had one more season after us, but it was like on Facebook Live or something like that. And I mean, I didn't even watch it. I don't really even know like anything about it, but I do know it was kind of like I feel like they were kind of struggling to kind of figure out like what they were going to do next, and where they were going to like take the whole premise of the show. And we kind of got, unfortunately, like, caught in the crossfire, whether it be like, production, like the finances that went into it, the energy of the press, like you can see that a lot just compared to like what the other seasons were able to get. So, you know, I'm happy I got the experience, but I definitely think, and I think a lot of the other cast members, you know, you'll hear them say it. You know, we got a little bit of the short end of the stick in terms of like, you know, what could have came out of the season if they had a little bit more, you know, energy and effort towards keeping it similar to the way things were prior, rather than trying to just like throw shit to the wall and see if it stuck at the last minute.
So, did you like the edit that you got?
Interesting question. I like it in terms of like at that time, like, you know, I was working some corporate jobs, like, you know, I was working at like a really like high boutique hotel in New York. I've worked at like high level like PR companies, and I've had my bosses reach out to me after like the season came out, and they were like, oh, we were like nervous to like see like, you know, what would you do on TV, because it's like, you know, MTV and stuff like that, and you held yourself like with such grace. And that's kind of always like the response I'm getting. It's like, you know, you seem nice, you held yourself with such grace, like you weren't like drunk or like having sex on TV or blah 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 blah. And I like it in terms of that. I think that the editors, I guess, watch my back in that way. But I think that in terms of the getting to invest yourself into a character, no one really got to understand who I was. They were just kind of like, she's nice and she's funny, but like there's a lot more layers to me than that, and there was a lot more that was actually happening and that was seen and or taped, and it was just never seen. So I think that it definitely was unfortunate, but I don't think people got a chance to figure out who I was. So then I think that it was such a drama-filled thing when I was cast on the challenge, and everybody was like, well, why is she cast on the challenge? We didn't even get to know her. She only had like, she was only like shown in this many episodes, like, you know, she wasn't fighting somebody or whatever the case may be. And it's like, you know, first of all, I didn't beg to be on the challenge. Like, I've had other cast members say, like, I should have been on the challenge. If they wanted you on the challenge, they would have called you to be on the challenge, okay? I got home, they called me. I asked, hey, do I need to send more videos? Because I'm over this if I got to go through more interviews. They're like, no, you just got to say you want to go. And I'm like, all right, cool, I'll go. Like, I've only been home for like 2 weeks, but sure. And then I went. So it's like, again, it's their decision, and they clearly want to be on it. And there was just a lot of backlash. If I got any negative backlash, it was just that transition of getting from the real world to the challenge, and people thinking, oh, she's so tiny, how is she going to make it far? Or like, we don't really know her, we didn't get invested in her character, so we don't even know who we're watching on the challenge. But I think the challenge, even though I was on there for 2 episodes, you got more of a sense of my personality there than you did the whole season of the real world. So it's a really weird situation.
Hey, to your defense, it was actually 3 episodes. Just want to clarify that.
That's what I'm talking about. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Back.
That's hilarious. I love it.
Yeah, and when I said you were going to be joining me, a lot of followers and subscribers wanted me to ask you, because they know that, quote-unquote, Queen isn't afraid to spill the tea. They said a lot was edited out from your season, and obviously, I mean, you mentioned before, was there anything that wasn't shown that you feel should have been shown, or would have, you know, provided us with a little more, maybe, how do I put this? Substance to the story and the plot line as to what was going on?
Well, yeah, I think a few things. Well, one, in just the way of the plot line of me and my bad blood, I think that we only got probably, I don't know, like 2 pieces out of one or 2 episodes of like what was actually happening with us. And I think that they wanted us to either get back together or have more of an issue with each other. But the thing is like, the reason why you got to the point where you're talking to him was because we actually were fine. We had no issues. So you brought on someone that you wanted to create fake conflict. And that's what I didn't realize. It was my first time on reality TV. A lot of people, I would say 99% of the people on the show, were like extremely extra and playing characters. And I would have to say that I am definitely the one person that was on there that was just being 100% myself. And realistically, it's reality TV. I didn't get the memo that I was supposed to be extra and that I was supposed to just pick fights and start fights and, you know, just kind of just be insane. But I think that of course, didn't help me in terms of like trying to get more camera time, which of course is the purpose. I think that also, just in terms of me and Will's relationship, Will is not the type of person that, is really crazy. Like, yeah, he got crazy when he drank, but like, other than that, like, he wasn't the type of person who would cause any issues either. But there were, like, he had like a really big fight with Orlana at one point, which was like one of the biggest fights of the season, and that was not shown. There was like a point in time where Cassius like got aggressive with me. And I remember I like called like the production on the phone, and I was like asking them like, you need either to take him out the house or take me out the house. Like, I feel like unsafe for my life. Never was seen. But I'm like, realistically, if you saw like a grown ass man in like my face, like feeling like I was about to be hit, like that would be a completely big scene in the show. But like, it was never seen or talked about. So I don't know if they did that to try to cover their tracks, or if, I have no idea. But like, that was something that I felt like was like one of the biggest situations. Tiara had issues with me for God knows, I don't even know what random reasons. Like, maybe I was happy and perky and she was the opposite. But that was issues. Like, there was, and then also I was battling like, just being depressed like throughout the show as well. And I was also taping. I had like my own like web series, and I was like trying to like tape the show and do mini interviews on the show. Never showed that as well. So there was a lot to me that was being shown, but they were like, okay, we're gonna cast her as like, lighthearted and funny, and the one that kind of like brings everybody up when like shit's going wrong. And then that's kind of like the parts that they put in of me. But I'm like, that's just one part of me, honey. Like, don't get it twisted.
And that really sucks to hear too, because it's like, they're casting you like immediately onto the challenge, and then like, obviously they want people to be invested in their product, as with any, TV company. And it's like, how are you expecting your fans to be invested in characters if you're not, developing them or showing them the character's development? You know what I'm saying? In your case. And now granted, like, there was plenty of people there, so a lot of moving parts, as we talked about before. But from talking to you, it seems to me like you're suggesting that your situations were pivotal enough to be, showcased onto television.
Yeah, and I think that, and I always say this to anyone who asks, I think that the problem that they had was when they, again, we were in a time period where you can tell the way that media is, the way that TV is, like just us being more inclusive, us not putting people in these stereotypical boxes, a lot different than things were 4 years ago than they were today. I think that they cast me visually thinking I would be some type of way. And then when I got onto the show, I mean, I'm not your typical, like, black girl, whatever that may look like to people who would stereotype someone on TV. I have a lot of different sides to me, and they didn't know where I fit. And I think that confused them. And in exchange, they just didn't know what to do with like the different things that was coming out about me. So they were like, it's like, I'm not going to be like the aggressive one. Like, they decided to put Tiara in that role. And the thing is, like, she's a sweet girl and she's not like all aggressive, but like they were like, we're gonna let that be her thing. They were like the hypersexual one, like, Jordan got that role, and it's like, and we're like the one who like caused drama, like Katrina, like they put, but then they were like, okay, we don't know really where to put Anika. We don't, like, she's kind of like a floater. And I think that if I leaned toward a particular personality type, that would have helped them cast me. But again, I'm gonna be who I am, and that's just kind of like what ended up happening because of that. They just didn't know how to cast me or how to put me on TV.
Yeah, I was like mind-boggling to me, like how Cassius never got removed from the show. Like, honestly, he had like so many instances. I mean, the one that you just mentioned with you and him, and then like the Theo thing. I don't know how you leave him to stay and then send Theo home, who's one of the originals. Like, that didn't really sit well with me. Like, yeah. I'm pretty sure he shoved Theo first, if I'm remembering correctly.
Yeah, I honestly don't even remember who shoved who first, but I do remember like me and Cassius we were never that close. Like, he's, again, I don't have any issues with anyone, but like I definitely have a preference. Even to this day, me and Theo don't really talk that much, but like Theo will always have a special place in my heart, and like we did the challenge together, so even at the time of being on the Real World, we became friends really close, really fast. And so, yeah, when he left, it definitely left like a vibe, like hole in the house as well. And so for me, I just think that, again, there were just a lot of unfortunate casting choices. I don't know who was in charge of these things, but maybe they wanted it because of the drama to see like what new dynamics would form, thinking it would almost like build up to something more interesting. But again, it looked like to me a balloon that was slowly deflating. And we ended up cutting the season shorter because it was just like nothing was happening.
Did you guys ever even end up having a reunion?
We did not have a reunion. I think I did like one on YouTube, and it was like a few months after. But it was one that I did on my YouTube channel. But no, we never had a reunion or anything like that. And I don't even know if like half of them really like talked to, the rest of each other like after the show was over. So we were too big of a cast, and there was just too much going on. And I think that too many relationships weren't deep enough to be formed to continue those friendships. Jordan, I mean, I talk to her still all the time. Like, she's been my girl since the show, day one, and she's still my girl now. But yeah, other than that, like, people, like, if you have 7 people, it's easier to like have a bond, less people to try to get to know, less energy to put out there. And now it's just kind of like, 14 people, like, we only have but so much time. So yeah, you don't really get those tight relationships. So it makes it harder to stay in touch.
And this was another fan question too. They said that they saw speculation on this, and they wanted me to ask you this: was the fight between Jennifer and the Stack sisters, was that real or was that staged?
That was real. Nothing was staged on the show. I think the best way to describe any type of reality TV is nothing is ever staged. Things are just instigated. So realistically, I say it in the way of if let's say the producers can tell that like so and so is having an issue with another person, and you want to try to be the person that says, you know what, I don't want to be in here with them. Like, I want to go to the club. I don't even want to deal with this. They'll take an extra long time to get the cars ready, so that they can hope to see that maybe with that pressure cooker, something will maybe pop off. So they never ever tell you like, you should fight this person, or they never say like, so-and-so was talking about you. It's never been like that. But it's definitely like, they will try to almost like put you in a position where you feel like you can't escape. And, a lot of the time, like, in the real world, like real world, like, if you have an issue, you walk away. Like, but on TV, like, you really can't walk away. Like, you'll get fined. So it's just like, all right, let's fucking go. And then that's kind of usually how it happens,
That was like, I gotta say, I gotta give Jen a 9 out of 10 for the push.
That's great. I think for Jen, she's a sweet girl. We still chat from time to time. We've hung out, not recently. I would say probably like within the last, like, maybe last time I was home from Thailand, so maybe like a year and a half, 2 years ago. She lives in Jersey as well, in Hoboken, so she's not that far away from me. But she definitely is like someone who I feel like she is like always been such like a diehard, like, MTV, like Real World, the Challenge fan and stuff like that. So I mean, I feel like she definitely probably got what she wanted from the experience in terms of like living a dream. So I mean, I'm happy that she was able to get that, but she seems to be doing great. And but yeah, I think she definitely till this day like loves that scene. Like, I see her randomly reposted like from time to time.
Yeah, and another question as well, people wanted to know if you knew what Tiara was up to these days.
I don't know what she's up to. She tends to be a little like Theo in terms of like the kind of fall off the face of the earth kind of thing. And we never really had a really close friendship, to be honest. Like, she had a friendship with like Jordan, and then I think she had an issue with me and that she was going to, and you know what, then you say reunion, and then I actually just reminded myself there was a reunion. It was like an after show, but me and Theo weren't there because we were filming the challenge. That's what happened. But apparently, like, she wanted to, fight me at the after show, and I was just like, I don't have a problem with this girl. Like, I really don't have any relationship with her. So I guess she thought I was talking about her. Who knows? It was like years ago, but again, Jordan's my girl, and she was like, for what, So but yeah, I mean, I have no idea what's going on with her. I mean, I know that she's dealing with her own things. I mean, but then again, that's years ago. But again, I hope she's doing well. But I don't even know if she's on Instagram, honestly. I don't follow her. I never did.
She's not on social media, I saw. So
Yeah, I don't know. But one thing I do have to say though is she's really good at like videos and editing and stuff. So maybe that's what she's doing, or she was in school or something like that. So maybe she's tied up in that. But like I said, everyone kind of goes through a little bit of something when they leave reality shows. Some people take it very well. Some people kind of almost like go through like a state of like trying to find themselves. And I think I saw that in a little bit of everyone. And, maybe she's taking this time to kind of, figure out what she wants to do next.
yeah, and I was also curious too from watching it because the whole thing where like cast members and like shows like it almost seems like, especially with the newer challenges, everyone's like feels like it's like you're stuck in jail, right? You have like no social media, like nothing's going on, no forms of entertainment, right? You're just in a house. Your season actually, like, you guys had telephones and stuff. Like, you guys got to use cell phones. I was curious about that because from every other Real World that I watched, I couldn't really recall a time that I saw, like, cast members allowed to use cell phones and stuff. Why do you feel like that was?
Yeah, it was kind of weird, to be honest with you. We had the cell phones, but the cell phones we could only use to text the other, teammates, and then any pre-approved numbers, meaning like, maybe your best friend from home, or you're like to your best friends from home or something like that. But then you also, like, at any moment they could say put your phones on the dock, and then they could basically go through your phones and see like who are you texting, who are you talking about, and they kind of course tried to use that as leverage. Maybe they thought people were going to be doing a lot more like behind the scenes or like talking about people behind their back. I don't really think it worked in the way that they wanted it to. I think it was just something they were testing out. But yeah, other than that, like, I think it was just a really weird thing. Again, I think our season, they were just trying to like throw random shit to the wall and see if it stuck, and a lot of things did not stick. So that was one of them.
Yeah, I like to call it the last official season of Real World because, I mean, a lot of people don't really take into regard Atlanta's time and stay too often because it was
So
on.
is Atlanta, is that the one that was on Facebook Live?
Yeah.
Okay, gotcha. Okay.
Because I don't know, it just kind of has been like swept under the rug. Like, I mean, they've got like this new Paramount Plus thing where they can go back and watch like all Real World seasons. I don't even think it's on there, and none of them made the crossover to the challenge. So it's almost as if it didn't happen.
Wow, that's kind of weird and sad as well. I think everyone deserves the opportunity to like, fully, like, if you get to the point where you're like on the Real World, it's like, it's such an iconic show, and
Yeah.
I feel like we got gypped, but then I feel like, damn, they got gypped more than us, so that kind of sucks. But I mean, one thing that's cool is Atlanta. Like, I've been to Atlanta, I have friends in Atlanta. Like, the parties are crazy there, the clubs are awesome, like the things you can do. Like, I was kind of pissed when I heard that we were going to Seattle, if I'm being honest. Like, I'm a city girl. I'm from New York City. Like, I've been to LA. I've been fucking Bali, Thailand, like, all around the world. Like, and then they were like, and you're going to? And then I remember they wanted me to tape my reaction when they told me. And then they were like, Seattle. And I, like, said, like, the dumbest response because, like, I wasn't excited about that because I was like, okay, well, like, what am I supposed to do with, like, the fact that we're going to Seattle? And I was like, yay. But, like, realistically, I thought we were going to go to, like, Miami. We were going to go to, like, New York. Like, we are going to go, like, I don't know, like, somewhere where we can go to more fun clubs. Like, I felt like, damn, like, we can't even get, like, a great location. But, no shade to Seattle. Like, it was cool, but not for the real world. Like, I think that there should have been more going on, more club choices. Like, that would have made, again, a lot more interesting storylines because a lot of shit happens in the clubs.
Yeah, and I'll say from a most objective standpoint, because I am actually a Seattle Seahawk fan in football, so I can't really talk too, badly of them. But from an objective standpoint, just like from a city basis, from my understanding, from what people have told me who live there, and from what I see in like entertainment and whatnot, it seems like it's always raining there, right? Like it's just like kind of like a, I don't know, like just not really like a poppin' scene, like say it's like a Miami or like a New York. What was nightlife like there?
It was kind of whack. Like, we had probably like less than 10, like maybe like less than 8 places that we would kind of like rotate and go to. It was like, like Tia Lou's, I think, was one of the places. I don't even know how I remember that. And like and then there was like one big club that we went to. Like, it was very not Like, and there was a lot of places we even looked for and that we found, but then they have to be approved, you know? So it's not like you can just like pick a place like you're normally going out with your friends. And yeah, the rain was, you know, the weather was okay. And there wasn't that many people on the street. It just, you know, it wasn't, in my opinion, where you would place a whole bunch of people that are trying to get into mischief and like get a whole bunch of drama out of. It was like if there was just 7 of us and it really was a little bit more like the very old Real World seasons where it really was just about like people walking through the park and like talking about like their childhood and stuff like that, then yeah, Seattle would have been great for that. But like that's not nothing was matching with what, you know, what they were doing. But you know, the people of Seattle, they were very nice though. That I do have to say that.
Were like the bar appearances and like the spring break still a thing? Like when you were coming off the shows, because they used to like send, you know, real worlders like on like appearances at bars and like pay them to show up and stuff like that. That wasn't still a thing, right? When you were coming off your show.
No, I think they probably did that once more. And I think it was they chose like challenge people, and I think it was like 3 years after like our challenge. I mean, our Real World season came out. But yeah, like the MTV Spring Breaker thing, like that was like older. You know, that died by the time, you know, we did our thing. So you know, that's unfortunate. But yeah, it was really just like even like our press tour situation. It was really more like a lot of things on social media, and that was pretty much it. So.
And you didn't have like much time at all, right? After filming your Real World season, when you then jump into filming for the challenge, right?
Yeah, I remember I got home and then they called me. I want to say like that week that I was home, and then they told me that I would be leaving in the next 2 weeks. So it was like a good solid like 3 weeks, and I was like already on the high from like being on TV. I was like, "Oh, y'all want me to go to another show? Okay." And then on my way there, I was like, "Wait, I don't really work out. I'm not fit. Like, I don't know how far I'm gonna get in this show. But you know what? Fuck it. Like being on TV is cool, and like I like it's the summertime. Why would I say no?" So I was like, "Yeah, this is cool, but like I don't know how I feel about doing it again if I had the choice."
Wow, so you were like away then, like while you're, or were you not when your show was first premiering,
We
right?
were away. Yeah, we were away. So my best friend was manning my social media and all that type of stuff. And like it's funny because I came back and like Jordan was like saw me tweeting and she was like, "Wait, is this Anika or is this Tira?" And then like I saw them back and forth. She's like, "No, Anika's still on the show." And then she's like, "Okay, bye, girl. Yeah, this is great." But yeah, like it wasn't me. But it was interesting though because by the time the first episode came out, I think it was like the week of our elimination. So I think by the time the second episode came out, we were heading back home. So, you know, we had our phones at least so we can kind of like see what was going on and the narrative of everything. But yeah, it was a really, everything felt like very like jumbled up on top of each other.
So you got to see most of the season then, right? Okay.
Yeah, I watched it, but to be honest with you, probably by the third episode, I was this is not really about me. This doesn't have anything to do with like who I am as a person. And then I was like, I'm kind of bored watching my own season, and this is not how I remember it. And then I actually stopped watching it, so I don't even think I watched to the end. I think I just was like on Twitter sometimes and would just get like the highlights, but I didn't like sit every week and like set my TV timer. Like my family did, my friends did, but like I was like, nah, I'm over this.
It's almost weird watching yourself back, though, I feel like, right? That's definitely a thing. You know, you live something and then have to, like, watch it. It's almost weird. Even when I record these, like, I find it hard to just, like, you know, watch myself talking to somebody, like, you know?
No, it definitely is really weird. To be honest with you, like again, like I only watched like 2-3 episodes of The Real World, but the challenge, even though I was only on 3 episodes, like I loved watching myself. And I actually like when people like random fans will send me like clips of the video and stuff, I always rewatch it, and I love watching anything that has to do with like me on the challenge. But The Real World, like I can kick rocks a little bit. I'm like, I'm over it.
So, you know, we talked about it before, obviously, with kind of like how they left some things out with you with the show. A lot left to be desired, I guess you could say. And people were like, "Oh, why is she on?" I'm not one of those people, but, you know, people. Um, but, like, did you expect to get the call or expect to go and, like, no aspirations, or what was that?
No, like I'm not like, I wasn't like the tallest, the strongest, like I'm not like an athletic person or anything like that. Honestly, I didn't even think about the challenge. I didn't even know what the process was to get on it. Like I did not care to get called. I literally was just like chilling one day at home. Like I think I was like making some like noodles or something, and then like they called me and they were like, "Yo, you want to go?" And I didn't even say, "Oh my god, yes." Like, what do I have to do? I literally said, well, do I have to?" Because when you're going through the process of getting chosen for any of these reality shows, they make you send through so many videos, so many clips, so many interviews, and I was kind of over it. So I literally said, "Do I have to do more interviews? Because if so, I don't want to do it." And then they were like, "Oh no, you just got to say yes or no." And I said, "Oh, okay. Well, that sounds easy enough. Sure, yeah." And then that's just how it went. Like literally that simple. And then the only thing they told me was, you can't talk about it with any of your other castmates. And then I was like, all right. And then that's when I was curious. I'm like, well, who's gonna be on it with me? And that's kind of where like the speculation kind of came into play.
Wow, so now I'm interested. What kind of noodles were you making? No, I'm just kidding. um,
Oodles and noodles all day.
No, but Theo was like definitely someone who from your season who got like the proper development and had like the athletic backgrounds where everybody was like, "Oh, we got to see him." So excited, And we'll get into that, of course, like how that ended up playing out. But yeah, that's draws back to my point. If we would have got you kind of like your character develop a little more like on our screen, like on your real world, like I feel like that's an important, part. Like they're putting you guys there for the character development, and if they want people to be invested in everybody, kind of, it was a little shitty to me. Like they elevate certain cast members, then your story's not as showcased as it maybe should have been.
Yeah, and I think that realistically, like I've always done like my own content creation, my own videos and stuff, and I think that that's the only way that people were able to see just somewhat of who I am is because like I do have like a YouTube channel. I do, post things on my social media feed, all that type of stuff. So that gave people a little something to pull from. But, realistically, yeah, like my opportunity to have it shown to the whole world, because, I still had like those people like who were just like, well, you're boring. And I'm like, you don't know me. Like, clearly I'm not boring. I've been through this whole process. But you know what? Have your opinions. Like, that's perfectly fine. And then I've also had those same people come back after they see me on the challenge and they're like, wow, I'm so sorry that I said that. Like, this one episode of the challenge makes me rethink that. And I'm like, exactly. So, like, don't judge a book by its cover. Like, don't just try to troll someone, when you don't really have the full story, which it's TV, so you never will have the full story.
These trolls, oh my god, especially in reality TV.
Oh my god, it's like they hate you, then they love you, then they hate you, then they love you, then they're obsessed, and then they hate you. It's just kind of like, but hey, without them, I guess there'd be no hype. So I mean, thank you guys. Like,
yeah, I want to dive now into kind of like your whole challenge, retrospect. So you make your gracious entrance when you fell into the water when they first take you to this island. What was that like? And also, after you told me what that was like, talk to me a little bit about where you guys were initially staying.
Yeah, so I was kind of pissed because, again, like, I always envision the challenge as you get there and you go and you, like, pull up to this beautiful mansion. And I was like, yes, like, this is like my chance, like, fuck real world, like, hey, challenge, like, I'm gonna get this mansion, like, the guys on here, like, they look good, like, I got my lashes done, my hair done, everything, and then I jump off this motherfucking boat, and literally I just fucking just slam into the water, and my lashes are coming off, and I'm just like, hopefully this does not end up on national television. Of course, like, that's like my entrance, and I'm like, this is great, but you know what, fuck it, that's how my life is, so I'm glad they showed a little bit of my personality there. But yeah, I think that you were saying what was the situation like when we first got to the island. Again, I watched previous episodes of or seasons of the challenge, and I thought we were going to be in a mansion, and that was not the case. We ended up like just pulling up on an island with like a whole bunch of just like slacks and like dogs that had like fucking fleas and rabies and shit, and that were fighting each other and like sand and just wetness. And I was like, this is not what my fucking season of the challenge is going to be like, is it? And it was. And I was like, Now I know why they fucking sent me on this fucking season, because they know that I'd be fucking pissed. And I was pissed. I was kind of pissed the whole time. So yeah.
So they really had like no other way for you guys to get off the boat. That was what it was, just like jump off. Like there was no like pull something out, walk down some stairs into the like there wasn't that.
Yeah, no, it wasn't that. I think that it was like a combination of two things. I definitely should have been a little bit more athletic with that, but they basically the waves were kind of going up and down and up and down, and the guy was holding like the front of the boat down with like this rope, and I was supposed to jump off the boat when he pulled the boat down in the front, and I just kind of jumped off like an idiot, thinking that I was a lot taller than I actually am. And then I realized I wasn't that tall when I jumped in, and then the water went over my head, and I had a humongous bag that just like toppled me over. So, yeah, that was all my shit was wet for like the first 2 days, which was so freaking annoying. And I actually said to myself, I'm like, you know what? Well, it's fine because I'm just gonna go wash my stuff. Like when we get into this mansion, I'm gonna just like blow dry, wash and straighten my hair. Like I couldn't do any of that. It was gone.
I gotta say, Theo had some pretty spot on commentary for that. I gotta say, he was like, "I want you guys to show this, and then I want you to rewind it," and then they did it in like again in slow motion. So I gotta give him one for that.
His commentary is definitely he has a skill for that for sure.
No, he's definitely like an underrated part of like the challenge. Obviously like it's a competition show, but it's a reality show at the end of the day. And I feel like you gotta if it's one thing to deliver like in the actual competition, but you gotta deliver to a certain degree in the confessional booth.
Yeah, exactly. It's a two-part game for sure.
Yeah. But I want to ask now because obviously you get there and there's a bunch of people that you probably meet for the first time. What were the first impressions? What were the first vibes you're getting from people? Who did you kind of gravitate towards? Maybe were there anyone that you didn't maybe gravitate towards? What was the situation with that?
I'm trying to think. So honestly, I loved everyone. I think that what happened was it's not like I met them the first time we got to the island. I met them all for the first time at the airport.
Oh.
Then we all traveled together. And actually on the way to traveling to Thailand, we had to like because usually you take like 2 to 3 flights to get there. Because they usually probably take like, they were traveling with like over 14, 20 something people. I lost my passport on like the second flight, and then that was like a whole big thing, and I was like the only one that lost it, and we had to like go back to the plane and see if like I was actually going to be able to be on the show because I didn't have my passport to get all the way to Thailand. And and I think that was definitely a bonding moment because everybody was like, yeah, we don't even know you, but we're so happy you found your passport. It was great. But yeah, Amanda was my girl early on, like, the little firecracker. She definitely like took me under her wing. Like me and Marie, like we hit it off for sure. Me and Toya, like we were great. I mean, honestly, I'm trying to think. Like all the guys, I think that they were fine. Like I loved like there's not one guy that I had any issues with, to be honest with you. Like I think I had a great relationship with all of them, and they like I feel like like Hunter, like Ant, Bruno, like Tony, like they were all great. I think that the only people I wasn't really close to was like Kayla and Jenna, and that was because they were doing their own thing. But then there were also times where like all the girls would be sitting around and we all would be chatting and we had like chill conversations too. But just no personal relationships were formed. But yeah, other than that, like everybody was pretty like I was actually almost surprised. I was like, this is so much better than the fucking real world. I was like, this is so great. I love the dynamic of people. I also was just like I saw them on previous shows, so it was like fun to like be around them and see like were they the same on their show that they are in real life. Like it was oh, and Shane, oh my god, he was great. It was such a fun time. Sylvia, yeah.
Wow, a lot of people watching this are going to be very happy to see who you kicked it off with because those are a lot of fan favorites. Latoya, wow, she's been on my show before. That was one of the most like that was probably the one that got my foot in the door, honestly. I love her. She was a great guest. Yeah, and Amanda, spoiler alert, she's actually filming the next season right now.
That's my girl. That's my girl. I love her. I hope she goes far. She deserves it.
Yeah, that was a pretty long trip to Thailand though, right? From, speaking to people, like that was brutal. I know they brought like alternates too, like on location just to have them in case.
Yeah, Emily was one of the alternates, and she was actually my roommate. So she never was like, no one ever got disqualified, so she never ended up on the show. But that's how me and Emily met, and like even still to this day, like we randomly like still chat with each other, and we're friends on social media, and she's great like that. Like I honestly have to say, like I feel like I left with better relationships on the challenge than I did on the Real World. So I don't know if it's because people were trying to figure out who they were trying to be because it was their first time on TV with the Real World. But on the challenge, it was like, we've already done this before. Like, so this is like who we are. This is who we know how we're going to be cast. So it just like, you take it or leave it. And I like respected that. And I
Yeah.
felt like it was a little bit more fake on the Real World because I was like, everybody who's trying to be somebody, it's like, I don't even know if you are who you are. But like on the challenge, I was like, oh, damn, like you guys are consistent. Like, and I really respect that. So that's kind of was my view on that in terms of people.
So you wanted to go in against Jenna then, right? Like, what was the reasoning behind that?
So there was the issue with that was what was happening was Theo got sick, and he was like, I think he got sick from like probably I want to say like after like the second or third day, and from the Real World you can tell like he was very social, very lively, and everything like that, and he just wasn't like that when we were on the challenge. Like he was a lot more quiet. Like he wasn't very social. He wasn't like I was playing the social game. Like I was like really cool with like everyone, and people would come up to me and they're like, you're tied to Theo because like you guys are the two new people. You guys came from the same season, and we would like literally have each other's back, and we were very vocal about that. But no one got a chance to like know Theo to get to the point where they were willing to have his back as well. So they're like, yo, we have your back. Well, Theo's like over here sitting by himself and he's not sitting with us and getting to know us and X, Y, and Z. And he was sick. He didn't have the energy for that. So I was kind of looking at it like, okay, Theo, like I'll play the social game and you play the physical game. Like you kill like the physical things and you save me. I'll play the social game and like I'll vouch for you kind of thing. And then it kind of got to the point where they noticed that he was sick and he was weak and he was going to be an easy person to take out. So then that's why they targeted Theo. And then I was just like, well, I mean, realistically, once they take out Theo, I feel like I'm not going to have like that one person who I know will 100% have my back. So like, I'm going to fucking go in and go big. And like, if I go home, I go home big. And if I don't go home, cool. Like, so it was kind of like for me, I was like, why not just like, kind of like go big or go home. That's exactly my thought process. So I was like, yeah, fucking throw me in. And then like all the guys were like, are you sure? Are you sure? Because I was really cool with all them. And they had to vote the girl in. And I literally went around and campaigned and I said, yeah, throw me in. Like I want to go in. And that's how it happened.
Wow, and that's kind of like that's another thing we didn't get to see too, because obviously, like there was no context provided about Theo being sick. We didn't really get to see, or we might, I don't know if we did get to see or not. The guys asking you like, "Are you sure about going in?" Do you think like had you not been set on going in, they would have thrown in someone else? Because I think, if I'm remembering correctly, this was after Sylvia voted Tony in. So if maybe Tony had some power, I could see them throwing in Sylvia instead of you, had you not wanted to go in.
Yeah, I mean, I think it was definitely like it was definitely a possibility, probably like a 50-50 or like, I definitely probably could have just skated by another week, but I I kind of knew where my odds were in terms of like just like that one person that would have my back. And realistically, like me and Theo were just like best friends at that point. And I was like, damn, like if you go, like I want to go. And I also was kind of like, I'm gonna be real. I was kind of over being there. Like, and that's kind of how I think Marie felt as well, because she was gone like the week prior or something like that. And it wasn't even about this. Like, she's a strong competitor, but she was also like that. She's a girly girl like me. She wanted to be in like a mansion. She didn't want to be outside, like, with these, like, I'm telling you, it was not fun. Like, we were hot and exhausted all day, no air conditioner. Like, there were these nasty ass dogs everywhere. Like, oh, and Ashley, I forgot about Ashley. Like, that was my girl on the show too. But yeah, like, I was thinking like, it was just because I thought about her because the dogs, she like really bonded with the dogs, but like the dogs, like there were random dogs on the beach, like they had fleas and they were like fighting each other. It just was not my scene, and that's not what I wanted my experience to be. And honestly, I was kind of like, hey, like when I got eliminated, like yeah, I was sad, but I was in the car and I was like smiling. I was like, yeah, like let me go to the fucking shower, like let me straighten my hair. So yeah, like not like I'm not that type of competitor. Like I definitely think I would have been better on Big Brother. That's more of like my speed. I'm more like strategic and like social game. The physical stuff, like that's not my thing. But you know, for the people that it is, cool.
Were you cool with Kayla and Jenna?
I didn't have a problem with them. We didn't have like any like best friendships. We don't like follow each other on socials anymore, but no bad blood or anything like that. We just never got a chance to be that close because they were playing their own like best friend game, which is understandable.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And we've gotten this far without talking about it. This is like one of the main points everyone wanted me to ask you about, because I don't know if you were ever aware or not or thought about this. This is like one of the biggest conspiracy theories about that elimination between you and Jenna. So I'm gonna play devil's advocate a little bit here. Um, so it was pretty clear that, like, obviously, Corey and Jenna the past couple seasons before that were kind of like looking like they were like up and coming, newer faces of the challenge, obviously. Um, and then Jenna's ex at the time, Zach, was going to be coming in a few episodes later with the champs, and they had that whole storyline brewing with, her and the Bruno situation and Zach coming in. The big conspiracy theory is that which the elimination, might I add, was a little janky. Like, that, what is that proving? Like, you're grabbing a bunch of balls and then jumping off a, like, what? Not only that, but they're controlling the time. So, like, if they really wanted to, they could just say that one person was faster than the other. You know what I mean? The big conspiracy theory is that they tampered with the time so that Jenna could stay. What is your thoughts on that?
Um, I I I find that to be very funny because I didn't even think about that, to be completely honest with you, until Theo mentioned it to me, because he was, of course, the only one that didn't jump. So he was the only one that was not on the ground floor. He was up where we were about to jump on that level. And he said that he was like, counting the time, or basically it looked like it was off. And so I think that that kind of sparked wildfire. Now, could that have happened? 100%. Could I've also just lost? 100%. I think it was very close. It was like, I think they said 3 seconds or 3/5 of a second or something like that. It was like some ridiculous amount of like time where like a blink could have changed that. And then some people were like, she got stuck in a tree, and I'm like, okay, guys, well, that it's not when you get hit the floor, it's when you jump off the ledge with like all the 5 balls. So I mean, I think that realistically, even if we did have the exact same time and they just had to make a choice, I do 100% see them choosing Jenna, because realistically, she is a fan favorite from previous seasons. She had the whole drama with, her ex and stuff like that moving forward. So it would make more sense to, just in a general like perspective of like TV and just what people are watching, to move forward with her. And I have no problem with that. That is perfectly fine. Would have been fun to like move forward in the game. Yeah, would have, but I'll let everyone else continue to speculate that. I'll never know the answer. But it's nice to know that people are think that I'm worth worth to speculate that over. So it makes me feel good. And I mean, realistically, like, yeah, I think that the challenge was a kind of random, but at least I proved to people like I don't step down from something that, I feel like is scary. Like, I may not be the most athletic person, but like, best believe like I definitely am not a chump, and I definitely will like stand up to whatever. So at least I got that to be proved, and that's really all I went onto the show to do, was to show that like I look like a princess, but then like I also can get dirty if I want to. So
Wow, it felt really good, like, addressing that, though, because that's kind of been like a lingering, Easter egg of sorts amongst like this challenge world with like fans and such. So that was what I was looking forward to talking about. I think you had a pretty good answer with that, because at the end of the day, we won't ever probably know, or but definitely something
so
to
many secrets.
yeah. I do wish Theo would have jumped, though. I'm not saying like the same thing could have applied in his case too, obviously, but it would have been cool to see him get a second chance because I think like he was kind of like wired for this a little bit.
Yeah, he definitely, I feel like, was more of like the physical type of person. Like he mentally was like, oh yeah, like the challenge, like I'm ready for this shit. And I feel like it's unfortunate that he, didn't jump, but I also respect his decision not to. Like, there are things that we don't see. People do get hurt on the challenge. Like, it's not like, we do these things and it's based off of just fear. Like, people have gotten very, like, hurt on the challenge by doing challenges before, because at the end of the day, you can never think that anything is going to be, like, fully, like, like hurt proof or whatever. But and if he felt like it wasn't safe, then I say, hey, go with your gut. Like, and I continue to let him know that, and I was supportive of that, and I wasn't going to make him feel shitty for that. But I think that the backlash that he got from not doing that was a little bit too much, and like people needed to kind of like relax. Like, he got a lot of hate on social media from like not jumping, and I think that it was just like, again, a lot of people have things to say, but it's like, would those people do it themselves? If you would actually get up and do it, and I see it on camera, then fine, you can have something to say. But if you're just honestly like a person that's commentating, just doing commentary from like, the side, then it's just really like, what are you really doing? Like, why are you beating someone down for doing what they felt like they need to do at that moment? So I think that if he had another chance, he probably would do it. But who's to know? I told him multiple times, I'm like, hey, like, I know Thailand now. Like, come back with me, come visit me. Like, we'll fucking go there and we'll do it again. Like, and I'll tape you, And so, I mean, clearly that's never happened. But, I mean, the offer always stands. If he ever wants to come visit me in Thailand and, like, do something crazy like that, or jump out of a plane, whatever the fuck it is, just to kind of, like, feel like he's, like, getting his comeuppance, like, he's always welcome.
Imagine making that a TikTok. Wow. Probably go by.
I know, maybe if you ever get him on one of these interviews, like, tell him, like, the offer always stands. Like, I'll take him out there if he wants, and like, we'll do something crazy. And maybe it's just for himself, like, or maybe it's for the fans. Who knows? But I think that everyone deserves a second chance. So I've been hearing a lot about like, oh, like bring you guys back. You deserve a second chance. And I think that if anyone deserves a second chance, it would be him. So because I think he really does want to be on the challenge.
Absolutely. What was it like with you guys leaving Thailand now after the fact? Because I know you get to like, stay for a little bit. They put you back in the hotel, and then I think like, from speaking with Bruno, he suggested that you, Marie, him, and Theo kind of had a little bit of fun. What was that like?
Yeah, that was great. It was. I think that Theo was a little sad when we first like left. I think he was beating himself up a little bit, like on the drive. But we were like, we kept on saying, I'm like, but we left together. And we pulled up to the hotel where they basically gave us, like our little bit of money for like the next 3 days. And I think we were able to stay longer than we originally would have been able to stay because it was like a weekend. So we got an extra like 2 days there. And I remember pulling up to the hotel and seeing Marie and Bruno on the balcony, and they were like, oh, who is it? Who's coming out the car? And then we got out, and then they were like, hey, and they were like, hey, and then we like ran, and we were just like, oh, this is me fucking lit. So we, we hung out, drank, just kind of like got a little bit of lay of the land because they've been there for a little bit. And yeah, it was definitely a bonding time for, I have a special relationship with Bruno and Marie just from being able to have that like time off the challenge to hang out with them. So it was great. And yeah, I wouldn't trade it at all. Great people to kind of like faces to see when you kind of, and get off of like get eliminated and pull up to the hotel for sure.
Seems like more people have fun after they get eliminated than when they're still.
I mean, honestly, yeah, like I've seen it a lot. Like, I'm also really like, I met Kellyanne, me and Kellyanne like met through Marie actually. And me and Kellyanne are really close, and it's funny because I feel like the only reason I got a chance to like meet her was because I bonded with Marie so well, but I would have never bonded with Marie if I never was able to spend that time with her after we got eliminated. So I think that everything kind of just like, the relationships, everything that happens for a reason, and I think that it all worked out. So
yeah, I've had Kellyanne on before too. Actually, she's great. She.
I love that girl.
what people want to know as well, were there any other calls that you received to do another challenge, or was that, the only one?
Yeah, so I would say probably like maybe 4 or 5 times after I got off the challenge. Um, and then so basically what happens is they usually tell you to like, put like put yourself on hold or whatever, and then they'll like let you know if they're gonna confirm you or not. And then clearly I was never confirmed for any of them, and then then or they call you and they ask you like, are you even interested? And then I just start saying like, no, like I'm not interested. And that's kind of like where we're at now. Like I'm not really interested in doing that. I probably would say the only way I'd go back on would be like if it was like the last season of like the challenge ever, because I'd be like, all right, well, fuck it, I gotta do it now. But like in general, I there are other reality shows I would go on, but the challenge is not one of them. Or if I could bring on my brother, because he would annihilate like everybody that I see on the challenge at this point.
So were there yeses for you when they asked, or was it always a no, or was it a little bit of both?
Were there yeses for me?
Yeah, like when they call you, like, oh, you want to do this? Like, were you like, yes?
The first 2 times, yes. So then they would put me on hold, and then they would say, okay, like we're just gonna move forward with X, Y, and Z. Okay, cool. And then probably around like the third time, they would reach out, and then I would say, no, thank you. Like, no, thank you, no, thank you. I think by that time it was probably at least like a year and a half to 2 years after, so probably like in 2019 or something. And I think it was just I told myself like if I say yes, like for the next year or two, and then I can get on it, I'll do it. But if it's like after these 2 years, like I'm just gonna say no, and I'm just gonna like take a break, and that's kind of been my philosophy since then.
Gotcha. So, any upcoming plans or anything you'd like to plug or promote in the closing?
Just my website, askanika.com, promoting my matchmaking. I'm building a course. I'm in the process of writing a book. So, of course, all those updates will be on there. Of course, continue to follow me on my Instagram at Nika Rashaun, because everything I do will be on there as well. And I will be posting my travels and just kind of my entrepreneurial journey. And, hopefully some other things will kind of come into play, whether that be like entertainment based, being in front of the camera, but I'm always cooking up something and I'm always working on something. So if you want to keep up with what I'm doing, that's definitely the place to check me out.
Absolutely. I'll plug that in the description. And thank you again for coming on. It was a pleasure talking with you. Great meeting you. And I think for the people that were wondering why you were on the challenge are going to come out of this now like, wish he's back on the challenge. But yeah, thanks again.
Thank you so much, Mike. I appreciate talking to you.
Have a good one.
Thank you. You too.